Good afternoon. I'd like to call to order the January 10th, 2023 Board of Zoning Appeals meeting. Mr. Skinner, please call the roll.
Dominic Epps.
Here.
Richard Eslick. Dan Proman.
Here.
Corey Carnegie.
Here.
Melissa Venable.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Are there any corrections to the previous BZA minutes? If not, may I have a motion for approval?
Motion for approval.
And a second?
Second.
Thank you. Motion by Mr. Carnegie and a second by Mr. Froman. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Thank you. All right. Our first agenda item this afternoon, is with applicant Steve Daniels, application BZA 36-2022. Mr. Skinner, will you please read the caption?
Before the Board of Zoning Appeals today is BZA 36-2022. The applicant, Steve Daniels, is requesting a variance to reduce the required side yard setback adjacent to a street from 25 feet to 9 feet for the interior sidewalk setback from 10 feet to 9 feet to construct a single-family dwelling. The property is identified as tax map 34G19, parentheses 2*1. The address is 283 Holiday Street, zoning classification residential medium density, RM. When you act upon this request, we'll be acting on a request to reduce the required yard setback adjacent to a street from 25 feet to 9 feet and the interior side setback from 10 feet to 9 feet to construct a single-family dwelling. Should the board decide in favor of approving this request, the 8 findings as listed in your package must be articulated as part of the motion. We will now have staff report by Melvion Knight, Assistant Zoning Administrator.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Madam Chair, board members, Secretary of the Board, guests, visitors, staff. My name is Melvion Knight, and I am the Assistant Zone Administrator for the City of Suffolk. Today, I'll be presenting staff report BZA 36-022 for 283 Holiday Street. The applicant, Steve Daniels, is requesting a variance from the Unified Development Ordinance from Article 4, Section 31-407, parentheses C, Table 407-1, Dimensional Standards, parentheses L, to reduce the required side yard setback adjacent to a street from 25 feet to 9 feet and the interior side setback from 10 feet to 9 feet to construct a single-family dwelling. The property is identified as tax map and parcel 34G19, parentheses 2, District 1, located at 283 Holiday Street, Suffolk, Virginia, Suffolk voting borough, zoning classification RM. This variance request was advertised in the Suffolk News Herald, and a notice was mailed to adjacent property owners in accordance with Section 15.2-2204 of the Code of Virginia. A notice sign was posted on the property pursuant to the request of the zoning administrator. The applicant, Steve Daniels, states that the property was obtained in good faith and seeks a variance to construct a 20-foot wide structure on a corner lot within the RM zoning district. Dimensional requirements for newly platted lots within the RM district requires a lot to have a total lot area of 10,000 square feet with a minimum frontage of 60 feet and a minimum lot width of 80 feet when measured at the front setback. The applicant's property calculates to 3,879.23 square feet in lot area, which is non-conforming when compared to the minimum requirements of 10,000 square feet for the RM zoning district. The substandard lot measures 38 feet in width when measured at the front setback facing Holiday Street, and the lot dimensions creates a hardship of encroachment within the required side yard, interior, and the portion that's adjacent to the street if the property was to establish a 20-foot wide structure on the site. The pre-existing conditions of the substandard lot will not support the construction of a 20-foot wide dwelling in the RM district. Therefore, Staff's recommendation for this request is an approval. Staff is available for any questions the board may have. Oh, and then another correction. On the survey, please note that the side yard that's adjacent to the street shows a 10-foot side yard setback, and it should reflect a 25-foot side yard setback when adjacent to the street, the portion that is facing Central Avenue as well as Holiday Street. I wanted to make sure that was on the record. Thank you.
I do have a question for you, just to make sure that what I'm looking at on the maps is consistent with this, because it's hard to tell. The sidewalk that runs along Central Avenue, is that within the right-of-way? There seems to be a sidewalk that looks like it's in pretty good shape that runs along Central. I was not able to go out to do a site visit, so I was hoping that maybe you could.
Are we reflecting, let's see, how can I do?
Do you know?
Yes, it's the areas identified on the survey as walk.
I'm sorry?
It's identified as walk along Central Avenue.
Okay, great. I could see it there. I couldn't see it on my small print. Thank you so much. Are there any other questions for Melvion before she sits down? Okay, thank you. We will now open the public hearing. Hearings are 30 minutes in length, 10 minutes for the proponents, 15 minutes for the opposition, and 5 minutes for rebuttal. Is there anyone here to speak in favor of this application?
Good afternoon, Board. My name is Steve Daniels. I'm here on behalf of the project here. I'm very familiar with this neighborhood. We're seeing a lot of new growth in here, which homeowners obviously are a huge improvement. And hopefully we'll be able to continue this, and I'll be able to answer any questions you have later.
Thank you,
Thank
Mr. Daniels. Is there anyone else here to speak in favor of this application? Is there anyone here to speak in opposition? Mr. Daniels, do you have anything to add? That will close our public hearing. I'll turn to the board. Are there any questions, comments, or motion?
I just have a question when he comes back up,
Okay.
but that's about,
Okay. Mr. Daniels, would you mind coming back up for a question for Mr. Carnegie? Thank you.
on your survey, Mr. Daniels, the only thing I have on it is your driveway. If it's some kind of way you could switch the driveway to the other side, due to,
We can.
you know, right, you see how your driveway is right there on the,
Shift it left.
right, shift it to the left. Only reason I'm saying is
We
if
can do
they
that,
backing out or anything like that, it could be accident right here. That's the,
That's a good point. Yes, we can.
right, yeah. Safety,
We can shift it
safety.
as far as,
Yeah,
whole
safety,
lot of
safety,
silver.
safety at all times.
absolutely.
All right.
Is there any other?
And then I will add, I just want to make sure, it looks like the sidewalk along Central Avenue is in pretty good shape, and there's many
It is.
houses that front on it. You won't be affecting that sidewalk?
No, ma'am.
Okay, you're going to be, it looks like you'll be 9 feet at a minimum from the actual walk itself.
That's my understanding from the surveyor.
Okay. Is there anything additional for Mr. Daniels? Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Do we have a motion?
I move we accept the proposition.
There's a, go ahead, sir.
I second.
We have a motion for approval and a second, with the understanding that the sidewalk that is represented will be shifted further away from the intersection.
The driveway.
I'm sorry, the driveway will be shifted further from the intersection of Central Avenue and the front-facing road. We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion of the motion? Seeing none, would you please take the roll, Mr. Skinner?
Dominic Epps,
Yes.
Dan Froman,
Yes?
Corey Carnegie,
Yes.
Melissa Venable.
Yes.
The motion passes.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. We will move to the second item of the agenda, BZA 2022-37. Mr. Skinner, will you please read the caption?
Before the Board of Zoning Appeals today is BZA 37-2022. The applicant, Kevin Mercer, is requesting a variance to reduce the required yard setback from 10 feet to 6.66 feet for the construction of a single-family dwelling. The property is identified as tax map 34G19, asterisk, double circle, excuse me, A, asterisk 59. The address is known as 218 Holiday Street, zoning classification, residential medium density RM. When you act upon this request, we'll be acting on a request for a variance to reduce the required yard setback from 10 feet to 6.6 feet for the construction of a single-family dwelling. Should the board decide in favor of approving this request, the 8 findings as listed in your package must be articulated as part of the motion. We will now have staff report by Melvion Knight.
Good afternoon again. I will be presenting BZA 2022-37 for 218 Holiday Street. The applicant, Kevin Mercer, on the behalf of the property owner, Eric Lyles, is requesting a variance from the Unified Development Ordinance, Article 4, Section 31-407, parentheses C, Table 407-1, Dimensional Standards, parentheses L, to reduce the required side yard setback from 10 feet to 6.66 feet to construct a single-family dwelling. The property is identified as tax map and parcel 34G19, parentheses A, asterisk 59, located at 218 Holiday Street in Suffolk, Virginia, Suffolk voting borough, zoning classification RM. This variance request was advertised in the Suffolk News Herald, and a notice was mailed to adjacent property owners in accordance with Section 15.2-2204 of the Code of Virginia. A public notice sign was posted on the property pursuant to the request of the zoning administrator. The applicant, Kevin Mercer, on behalf of the property owners, Eric Lyles, states that the property was obtained in good faith and seeks a variance to construct a 20-foot wide structure within the RM zoning district. The dimension standards for newly platted lots within the RM zoning district requires a lot to have total land area of 10,000 square feet with a minimum frontage of 60 feet and a minimum width of 80 feet when measured at the front setback line. The applicant's property calculates to 5,666 square feet in land area, which is non-conforming when compared to the minimum standards of the RM zoning district. The lot measures 33.33 feet at the front setback line facing Holiday Street. The deficiencies of this substandard lot was noted in the individual single-family review. During that time, staff consulted with the property owner to modify the required side yard in accordance with Section 31-801, parentheses E, of the Unified Development Ordinance. However, the calculations of the percentage that's allowed, up to 30% by the zoning administrator, was exceeded during that consultation. Due to the pre-existing conditions of the substandard lot, the property would not support the construction of a single-family dwelling in accordance with the RM standards. Therefore, staff recommends approval of this request. Also, we have enclosed within this presentation an example of the proposed elevations for the 20-foot wide structure. Staff is available for any questions you may have for this presentation.
Thank you, Ms. Knight. Are there any questions for Ms. Knight? Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
We will now open the public hearing. Hearings are 30 minutes in length, 10 minutes for the proponents, 15 minutes for the opposition, and 5 minutes for rebuttal. Is there anyone here to speak in favor of this application?
Board. My name is Kevin Mercer. I'm the contractor on the property for the homeowner, Mr. Eric Lyles. As Mr. Daniels mentioned prior to me, in this area, the Holiday Street, that neighborhood is doing a lot of growth, a lot of new construction, and we just feel that this home will continue to help the appreciation in the area as well. Other than that, if you have any questions for me, please let me know.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else to speak in favor of this application? Is there anyone to speak against the application? Sir, do you have anything you'd like to add at this time? Okay, thank you so much. That closes our public hearing. Do we have any questions, comments, or motion?
Motion for approval.
Second.
We have a motion for approval and a second from Mr. Carnegie and Mr. Epps. Please take the vote. There's
Dominique Epps,
Yes.
Dan Froman,
Yes.
Corey Carnegie,
Yes.
Melissa Venable.
Yes,
The motion passes.
terrific. Congratulations, sir. We look forward to the elevations that you submit and seeing those come to fruition. Okay. Move on to BZA 38-2022. Mr. Skinner, will you please read the caption?
Before the Board of Zoning Appeals today is BZA 38-2022. The applicant, Mikhail and Halia Barnes, is requesting a variance to reduce the required yard setback from 35 feet to 17.1 feet for the construction of a covered porch. The property is identified as tax map 4C, asterisk 2, asterisk 3, asterisk 4. The address is 8221 Centerbury Crescent Lane. Zoning classification, residential low density, RL. When you act upon this request, we will be acting on a request to reduce the required yard setback from 35 feet to 17.1 feet for the construction of a covered porch. Should the board decide in favor of approving this request, the 8 findings as listed in your package must be articulated as part of the motion. We will now have staff report by Jennifer Cobb.
Good afternoon, board members. My name is Jennifer Cobb with the Zoning Office. As previously stated, the applicants Micah and Haley Barnes are requesting a variance from the Unified Development Ordinance, Article 4, Section 31407C, Table 4071, Dimensional Standards L, to reduce the required front yard setback from 35 feet to 17.1 feet for construction of a covered porch. The property is identified as tax map 4C, star 2, star 3, star 4, and located at 1221 Canterbury Crest Lane, Suffolk, Virginia, Chuckatuck Voting Borough, zoning classification RL, residential low density. The subject property is also solely surrounded by RL zoning districts. This variance request was advertised in the Suffolk News Herald, and a notice was mailed to adjacent property owners in accordance with Section 15.2.2204 of the Code of Virginia. A sign was also posted on the property. The applicant stated the property was acquired in good faith in 2004. The subject property received a boundary line adjustment in 2021 to vacate an interior lot line. The recorded plot shows the existing home encroaching into the required front yard setback. The existing home was built in 1966 and predates the existing ordinance. However, when the boundary line adjustment was approved, it imposed the current regulations for properties located in the Chesapeake Bay Preservation Area. This property has a required 100-foot resource-protected area buffer located in the rear portion of the property, extending almost to the rear wall of the home. The applicant is proposing an 8-foot deep covered front porch along the entire front portion of the home to be located 17.1 feet from the front property line. The property also has a recorded 15-foot underground easement with Dominion Energy. This property faces many challenges, with a portion of the home being located within the required front yard setback, the RPA feature located at the rear of the home, as well as the drain fields, and a 15-foot recorded easement located along the front property line. Therefore, staff recommends approval of this request, and I'm available for any questions the board may have following the public hearing.
Thank you, Ms. Cobb. We will now open the public hearing. Public hearings are 30 minutes in length, 10 minutes for proponents, 15 minutes for opposition, and 5 minutes for rebuttal. Is there anyone here to speak in favor of this application?
My name's Micah Barnes. I'm the homeowner. And yeah, we're trying to improve the house. All the neighbors are truly in favor of it. The house is kind of older. Since we've lived there, we've actually made a bunch of improvements, and we're just trying to do the aesthetics on the outside now. But yeah, where the house is located, we didn't realize it when we first, made the proposal to do a porch. We didn't realize that the line was so far into our house already. So that is why we are here. The current front porch is actually kind of dangerous. We have 2 little kids, and you can see the doors offset from the stairs there when the house was built in the late 60s. It's just kind of weird, and Plus, the house just kind of looks basic, and with everybody doing improvements to or there's a lot of neighbors doing improvements to their house, so we want to do the same. And that's really it. Right now, where the porch is proposed, we have a sidewalk there now that comes out 8 feet exactly from the house on the right side as you're looking at it. The porch wouldn't extend past that. And that's it.
Thank you. Is there anyone else here to speak in favor of this application? Is there anyone to speak in opposition? Mr. Barnes, is there anything you'd like to add? Okay, thank you. That will close our public hearing. Do you have any questions, comments, or a motion?
Motion for approval.
We have a motion for approval by Mr. Carnegie and a second by Mr. Froman. Any discussion? Mr. Skinner, will you please take vote?
Dominique Epps,
Yes.
Dan Froman,
Yes.
Corey Carnegie,
Yes.
Melissa Venable.
Yes.
The motion passes.
Congratulations, sir. We look forward to seeing the improvements made. And our last item this afternoon, BZA 39, 2022, applicant Elizabeth Hurst. Mr. Skinner, will you please read the caption?
Before the Board of Zoning Appeals today is BZA 39, 2022. The applicant, Elizabeth Hurst, is requesting a variance to increase the maximum permitted impervious coverage from 16 feet to 30, from 16% to 30% for an existing substation. The property is identified as tax map 40*39A. The address is as follows: 450 Dutch Road, zoning classification, agricultural, excuse me. When you act upon this request, you will be acting on a request for a variance to increase the maximum permitted impervious surface from 16% to 30% for an existing substation. Should the board decide in favor of approving this request, the 8 findings as listed in your package must be articulated as part of your motion. We now have staff report by Jennifer Cobb.
Good afternoon again, you guys. As previously stated, the applicant, Elizabeth Hurst, is requesting a variance from the Unified Development Ordinance, Article 4, Section 31407C, Table 407-1, Dimensional Standards E, to increase the maximum permitted impervious coverage from 16% to 30% for Dominion Energy to expand the existing substation. The property is identified as tax map 40*39A and located at 450 Dutch Road, Suffolk, Virginia, Holy Neck Voting Borough, zoning classification agricultural, and is solely surrounded by agricultural zoning districts. In accordance with Section 31309C2 of the UDO, a variance may be granted by the board if the applicant establishes compliance with the hardship criteria which was mentioned in the packet. This variance request was advertised in the Suffolk News Herald, and a notice was mailed to adjacent property owners in accordance with Section 15.2.2204 of the Code of Virginia, and a sign was posted on the property. There is an existing substation and tower located on the parcel. The proposed 1,900 square foot development and security fence will be located on a concrete slab foundation. The expansion is needed for a new utility scale solar site, which will be connecting into the existing Holland substation. The solar site will be another generation source for the surrounding customers fed from the Dominion Holland substation. This utility expansion will provide an area for protective equipment to be installed in an industrialized building. The new construction meets the required 50-foot front yard setback and will be secured with new safety fencing. The existing substation is currently non-conforming as the total impervious coverage on the site is 27.5. Per the Table 407-1 Dimensional Standard E, the maximum permitted impervious coverage in the agricultural zoning district is 16%. The site is already over the maximum impervious coverage by 11.5%, with an additional 2.5% proposed. The small percentage of additional impervious coverage will not have a negative impact on the existing surroundings, nor will it be a change to the current use of the property. This request will provide more of a benefit to the adjacent property owners. Therefore, staff recommends approval of this request. And I'm available for any questions the board may have following the public hearing.
Thank you, Ms. Cobb. Are there any questions for Ms. Cobb? We will now open the public hearing. We have 30 minutes, it will be 30 minutes in length, 10 minutes for proponents, 15 minutes for opposition, and 5 minutes for rebuttal. Is there anyone here to speak in favor of this application?
Good afternoon, board members, and thank you, staff, for that wonderful presentation. My name is Hannah Hurst. I'm with Dominion Energy Siting and Permitting, and I'm here to talk to you guys about this application. I won't go over everything that Ms. Cobb has already said. I'm just going to, for right now, talk about what the need is. The need is for the solar facility that has already been approved through the CUP, and I have that number if you all would like it. That was approved last year. That solar facility, as Ms. Cobb stated, will tie into Holland Sub and will need extra security equipment to safely meet our interior setbacks that are required by other reasons inside our substation. I'm available for any questions. I also have handouts if you guys would like. It's just an exhibit similar to this one. I also have a copy of a postcard that we send out to adjacent property owners within 1,000 feet of this area, in addition to what staff sends out. We sent that out, I believe, in November. So I'm here for any questions after the public hearing. Thank you.
Is there anyone else to speak in favor of this application? Is there anyone here to speak in opposition? Is there anything else you would like to add, ma'am? This will close our public hearing. Is there any discussion, comment, or motion?
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion for approval and a second. Any discussion? Nope. Would you please, Mr. Skinner, would you please move forward for our vote?
Dominique Epps,
Yes.
Dan Froman,
Yes.
Corey Cornigan,
Yes.
Melissa Venable.
Yes.
The motion passes.
Terrific, thank you. Is there any other additional items for today? And will we have a meeting next month? Ooh. This will close our public hearing. Thank you so much.